Hello, beautiful people. Future me. Welcome to another programming workout of mine. Um, let's get into it. So, at first, we will do typing, as always, and then we'll continue with the spring because, well, just because, no reason whatsoever. Alright, I'll start the timer. Let's go. Ah, okay, making lots of mistakes. 6%, okay. If I reload, will it... Oh, it show different one? Weird. Anyway, we are out of the time. So I'll stop this timer. I'll stop the spring timer, spring we are doing. I'll have a look in my notes. And my notes say that this is probably a lie. Anyway, but I'm doing this inside of this project. And I think this was working. So, JDBC template. Bum bum bum. Beans, okay, and they have a different thing in here. So, this is not a bad idea. So I can do that. So I will say here, I will say student template creation, like so. And if I run it, okay, everything's slow. Okay, good. So we are here, we are creating them. Now I will list them. Come on. I think like this. And maybe I want you on a... Oh crap. Where it was run, right? Yeah, okay, and I want you on... Oh, again. Run. And I want you on a top right. Move to... right up. Okay. So this is my result. Now, what I did else? Listing, yeah, then updating record with ID2. Okay, I can do that. Close to. This will be capital and student time on capital 2. Okay, now I will say student JDBC template update, and we will say 2 and age will be 666. Or maybe 1 to 3. And listing record with ID, okay too. So we can do that, and that will be set. Okay, so that is student JDBC template dot, and we have what? Get student, and we want the ID too. I'll probably want to assign it to a variable. Student, yeah. Okay, and here I say I'll copy this guy and put it over here. That should be it. Okay, I can run it. Let's let the magic happen. Exception. Cool. Cool. What is happening? Bad SQL grammar exception. Update set HRID nested exception. Table sys student does not exist. Okay, so that was in the template, I think. Okay, and that was the update. Update students should be different. And the sys student does not exist. The get student works from student. Okay, so like so. I save it and I can rerun it, and that should be okay now, I think. Okay, so we have different empty results, data accept. Okay, and now we are returning nothing. Oh, that's void. Let's update. Delete. So get student. We are returning the student. Result size 1, expected actual 0, and that is exception in mine. Data access, student JDCB, and 29. Okay, so it's getting student. Here they say query for object, so what did I have differently? Get student. Here's the interface. Here's the thing. So query for object, SQL. So just copy this and compare it. Paste it. That is identical, my friend. So what? Here, get student ID 2. Oh, I know, because there is no such a thing with ID2. And that is if I go to console and I select a new session. If I select that, I will get a bunch of things, but it will say I will not get the, there will be ID 100 something. Yeah, or well, 22. So let's say we will modify 22. 22, 22, and now if I run it, that should be okay. Yeah, so Maya is with ID 22 is 25. Then we update it, and then we get it back. Okay, so looks like everything works here, so that is wonderful and awesome, and so on. So what do we have here? At first, well, my monitor is doing shit. My graphics, or I don't know. Understand the concepts, blah blah blah. What was interesting here for me was the DAO, so that was like some interface. I'm not sure what this is useful. Why do we have it here? Create DAO interface. DAO and list down all the required methods. Do it's not required, and you can directly write student JDBC template class, but it's good practice. All right. Okay, so this is not exactly required to make it work. Then we had a student, then the mapper. Okay, so the mapper, that is interesting, and that is how to get the associate fields. I think that will be mapping the from the result what we get from the database to the object, to the POJO which we create to represent our data. I think I saw it differently, like with annotation configured or something, like in later versions of Spring. Oh well. Then the template. Well, what does the template do? Okay, so we have it implements the student DAO, and so that is the get, set, create, and so on. Okay. So that is a template. Why is it called template? Okay, so it takes. Where's the template? Oh, here's the template. And JDBC template object update. So we create an instance of that. Okay. Then, for example, the create is we are inserting that. Then we say update. update this what? JDBC template object. It's just JDBC template object. Student. Is that it? What I'm looking at? Yeah. So we have update, for example, here, and if I have a look in there anytime soon, and some magic, and that is in the Spring library. Okay. Okay. So we've got that. Magic happens and it works. Okay. I want to continue. And continue we will. Okay, so Spring JDBC framework overview. I will change my notes. That's definitely what I do. So wait a moment. I was going here, but that's not. I made a side step. So I was originally in here, and from there I sidestep to the JDBC template, like somewhere in here to understand the thing. Yeah, so this was the JDBC example, and now I don't know what's the stored procedure. SQL. The symbol JDBC call class can be used to call a stored procedure with in and out parameters. You can use this approach while working with either the RDBMS. Okay. To understand the approach, let us take our student table. Okay, next consider the following. MySQL store procedure, which takes student ID and returns the corresponding student's name and age using out parameters. So let us create this store procedure in your test database using MySQL command prompt. Drop procedure if exists test get record create test. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so I don't know anything about the store procedures yet, so I'll skip this. So next thing will be transaction management. Yep. Okay, so this is what I will continue in. So bam, bam, bam. Oh crap, that's not the right key. It's different shortcut in here. Bam, bam, bam. Okay, and I will take the thing in here. Then that will be it. So let's continue. A database transaction is a sequence of actions that are treated as a single unit of work. These actions should either complete entirely or take no effect at all. Transaction management is an important part of RDBMS-oriented enterprise application to ensure data integrity and consistency. Mhm. So that is some part of work that should be, every single step should be done or nothing, and it's very important, okay? The concept of transactions can be described with the following four key properties. Describe it as ACID. That will be a trip. Atomicity, consistency, isolation, durability. Atomicity, a transaction should be treated as a single unit of operation, which means either the entire sequence of operation is successful or unsuccessful. Consistency, this represents the consistency of the referential integrity of the database, unique primary keys, and tables, etc. Isolation, there may be many transactions processing with the same data at the same time. Each transaction should be isolated from others to prevent data corruption. Durability. Once a transaction has completed, the results of its transaction have to be made permanent and cannot be erased from the database due to system failure. Mm-hmm. Due to system. Oh, that's a wide spectrum of things that can happen. Right. And then we are talking about local and global, pragmatic declarative, Spring transaction, free things in here, another things, another things, another things, another things, and then end. Alright. A real RDBMS database system will guarantee all four prerequisites for each transaction. The simplistic view of a transaction issued to the database using SQL is as follows. Begin the transaction using begin transaction command. Perform various deleted, update, or insert operation using SQL queries. If all the operations are successful, then perform commit. Otherwise, roll back all the operations. Spring Framework provides an abstract layer on top of different underlying transaction management APIs. Spring Transaction Support aims to provide an alternative to AJB, Enterprise JavaBeans, maybe, by adding transaction capabilities to POJOs. Spring supports both programmatic and declarative transaction management. AJB requires an application server, but Spring Transaction Management can be implemented without the need of an application server. I don't know what that means, the last thing. What I've got is we've got another layer, abstract, which we interact with, which makes sense. And what was else? Oh yeah, we are somehow making POJOs better. And we don't need some application server. Alright. Alright. So the next thing is local and global transactions. So local transactions are specific to a single transactional resource, like a JDBC connection, whereas global transactions can span multiple transactional resources, like transaction in a distributed system. Specific to a single transactional, okay, like a JDBC, global transaction, multiple transactional resources like transactional in distributed systems. So there will be multiple machines or multiple databases, which they will be communicating between each other, I guess. Local transaction management can be useful in centralized computing environment where application components and resources are located at single site, and transaction management only involves a local data manager running on a single machine. Local transactions are easier to be implemented. Global transaction management is required in a distributed computing environment, and we are out of the time. Alright, that means that we are done. Done is better than perfect, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.